There is a significant difference in the effect that a compound movement has on the body over an isolation exercise. Both compound movements and isolation exercise have different effects on the results we see in the gym, and I personally believe you should always do a mixture of both these movements in almost all of your workouts. A compound movement is any exercise that engages two or more different joints to fully stimulate entire muscle groups and multiple muscles at the same time. So put simply, a compound movement, it's an exercise that works more than one muscle group at a time. A major benefit of using compound movements is the load of stress that they exert throughout the target muscles and the neighboring muscles to that target muscle. They really break your muscles down well. So an example of a compound movement would be a squat or a deadlift. So when performing these exercises, the whole body is forced to work together as a whole to complete the movement, and it produces stress on multiple large muscle groups at one given time. When you put your body under this much stress multiple times per workout, you actually benefit from a large hormone release. So training to failure using compound movements maximizes the amount of growth hormone and testosterone the body produces in a workout, which in turn is going to increase the rate your muscles can absorb protein and is also going to allow for a much faster recovery and bigger muscle growth. Another reason for utilizing compound movements over isolation is the fact that in compound, it will actually break the muscle down a lot faster, which eliminates the need to include excessive isolation exercises. So this is going to save you time in your workout. Compound movements are exercises like a chin-up, push-up, bent over row, squat, deadlift, the leg press. Basically any exercise where you are working more than one major muscle group at a time. So for example, when you're squatting, you're using your glutes, your quads, your hamstrings, your core. Another example, when you're doing chin-ups, you're basically using every muscle in your back, like your lats, your traps, the rhomboids. You're even using your forearms. You can logically understand the stress that an exercise like the squat or a chin-up, in a compound movement is going to place on the body than say an isolation one like, just bicep curls. Compound movements are much harder both on your muscles and the central nervous system, and they do help build muscle faster than what an isolation exercise does. In saying that, what actually helps you build muscle faster than a compound movement alone is a compound movement with an isolation exercise put together. Now, what an isolation exercise is any exercise which only the major muscle group is being trained. Okay, so typically the movement is done in such a way where activation of all the other muscle groups is avoided. It's only that one muscle. So this leaves one muscle group to be isolated and it's forced to do all the work, placing maximum stress on that one muscle. I just need to say that really there is no such thing as a full isolation exercise, because we all have muscles in our forearms that work when we grip a bar or a dumbbell, but a general consensus is that isolation exercises are targeting just that one muscle group at a time. So an example of an isolation exercise is leg extension. When you're going through the movement of a leg extension, all the stress of the tension is going to be placed on the quadriceps, the quads. If you are squatting, you're using quads, glutes, hamstrings, core, etc. But when you are doing leg extension, all the stress is pretty much just the quads. So you're isolating that area. Another example of isolation would be, dumbbell cable flies. When you are doing, going through that movement of the cable or dumbbell fly, you're focusing purely on chest if your, form is correct. If you compare that to bench press, where I'm pushing up, you're working the entire chest, you're working the triceps, the front delts, your core, your forearms. So isolation exercises hit that one muscle group at a time, whereas compound movement are going to hit multiple groups. Now, based on what I've told you so far, I think we could, come to the conclusion that you're going to break your muscles down a lot faster using those compound movements, which is going to create more tears in the muscle, which is going to allow the muscle to absorb even more food, which is going to build, the muscles back even bigger. So yes, compound movements are going to help build muscle faster than an isolation exercise. But what is going to build it even faster than that is compound combined with isolation. So in every workout I ever do, I always do a mixture of both compound movements and isolation exercises, because I always want to be getting the full benefit from my workout. So this is a simple generalization, but basically compound movements are going to help build and grow the muscle, and isolation is going to focus more on the shape and the cut of the muscle. It's a generalization, but that's the core principle. I personally believe, the perfect physique is not just a big slab of muscle. You got to have big muscle, but it's got to be in proportion to the rest of your body, and it's got to have a nice shape, and it's got to be, perfectly symmetrical. If you are going for that look where you want to be just well shaped and well defined, just doing compound movements alone is not going to get you there. You need to have that isolation exercise as well. If your goal was just to get strong, I would focus, mostly on compound, but I don't personally like the power lifter look as much, and that is not what I'm training for. I admire it. I respect the insane strength that they have, but for me personally, I prefer to have a natural bodybuilding and fitness physique, and I train to look good and to obviously perform as an athlete as well. The best way to train to look good and be strong at the same time is to incorporate both compound and isolation, and then on top of that, even diet, and getting as much rest and sleep as possible. That is going to get you the best results. Everything goes hand in hand, and everything is just as important as the other. I've said multiple times before that every workout I ever do is different, so this is just an example, but I'm going to go through what a sample chest workout would look like for me and show you how to effectively incorporate both these isolation and compound movements. It is different all the time, but generally when I start a chest workout, I either start it with bench press, or I might do it on the Smith machine, or dumbbell bench press, because I'm the strongest at the start of my workout, which means I can lift a heavier weight, which is going to create more tears in my muscle from the start of the workout. I will do 4 to 6 sets of bench press, including a warm-up, and then I would move on to another compound movement like dumbbell bench press or Smith machine. So basically I would start the workout using 2 different compound movement exercises, because I personally like to do them when I'm at my strongest, which is at the start of the workout. After I complete my 2 compound movement exercises, I will focus more on some isolation like dumbbell flies or cable flies. So going from a compound movement where you've just completed 5 to 15 sets of training your muscles, to full failure, and then moving across to an isolation, it's just going to rip your chest up that little bit more. When I do an isolation exercise, this is where I really love to incorporate techniques like drop sets and supersets and pause reps, with a hard squeeze with full tension is being placed on that one muscle. Because there is no real risk of dropping the weight on top of you, and you're placing minimal stress on your joints, and you can really push yourself to your limits and train to full failure when you perform isolation exercises. I would do, let's say, 3 or 4 drop sets of an isolation exercise like cable flies or dumbbell flies, to the point where my muscles are almost feeling physical pain. Isolation exercises done properly create a huge burning sensation in the muscle and basically finish the job off from the compound movements where they started. So really high reps, really high intensity, really maximizing the amount of tears created in that muscle. When you actually picture the muscle being broken down in your head, you can understand the kind of stress you are placing on that muscle and how many tears you are creating. It makes a lot of sense to train this way. Now I'm going to explain something different to you, and this is why obviously bodybuilding creates so much conflicting information and it can get confusing. So I've just told you that I would generally start my workout using all the compound movements and then move to isolation exercises to finish my muscles off and complete my workout. However, it doesn't always have to be like that. There is a training technique which is called pre-exhaustion, or pre-exhausting the muscle. Now, what pre-exhausting the muscle means is before you go on to heavy compound movements, again, let's use chest as an example, you start the workout using isolation like cable or dumbbell flies, or just really low weight of a compound movement. Because you are breaking the muscle down and creating the tears in the muscle first before going into the heavy hard lift, then you have placed a huge load on the bench press and dumbbell press on top of the tears you're creating in the isolation exercise. It's going to stimulate even more growth. So pre-exhausting the muscle is a very common technique, and it's something I also do from time to time. There's no right or wrong way to train. You can pre-exhaust the muscle using compound movements, which I do in some of my exercise demonstration videos. You can pre-exhaust the muscle with isolation exercises when you can do all sorts of stuff. It's all about your training intensity and how much you can break your muscles down in a workout. The more tears you create, the better. All my videos on training techniques and training principles are always going to lead back to the same conclusion, because what I'm saying is correct, that there is no right or wrong way to break your muscles down. Mix it up, be creative, and once again, make sure you are training at that 100% intensity. It does not matter if you do 25 sets of the bench press for your workout and that's it, if you are still going to create major tears in the muscle, which is then going to build back bigger and stronger, given you are eating and resting well. It does not matter if you decide to do 25 sets of isolation exercises like dumbbell or cable flies, if you do it at 100% intensity and train till you cannot lift another single weight. Doesn't matter if you do isolation, then compound, it's all correct. As you know, as long as you break down the muscles and as long as you're getting that adequate rest and recovery. As long as you are training at 100% intensity, the muscle to full failure, what you are doing is going to work incredibly well. It's best to not overcomplicate things when you train. It is, really just keep it simple. Intensity stays high and you keep your workout simple. Your muscles do not care how you have broken them down. All that matters to us trying to get in shape is that we break the muscles down as much as we possibly can. Once we finish the workout, we then eat very good nutritious food at all the right times. We rest, we sleep to recover. It's very simple, it's very easy to follow. Training is fun, it is hard work, but it's fun. You should never be stressing about your workout or not knowing whether what you're doing is correct or not. Everything is correct if you follow it, what I've taught you, as long as it's done with good form and maximum intensity, and you train till you have literally nothing left in the tank and it feels like your muscles are about to explode. The harder you train and the more variations you add into your workouts, the better your results are going to be. Alright, so I want you to check out all my exercise demonstration videos so you can make sure your form is correct and you know what you are doing when you are going through these exercises and putting it into practice.